Mathematics 3. Compare the capacity of containers indirectly. Encircle the container that can hold more. If the containers can hold the same amount, mark them with an X. Read the following words. Capacity is the amount of something or measuring material, e.g. water, sand, rice, mango beans, salt, that a container can hold. Which container has greater capacity? The capacity of container A is greater than that of container B by direct comparison. This time, we will compare the capacities of the two containers using indirect comparison. Fill containers A and B to the brim with any measuring material. These are containers C and D. What do you notice about them? Containers C and D are of the same size and shape. Containers C and D are identical containers. Pour all the contents from container A into container C. Pour all the contents from container B into container D. In which container is the level of the measuring material higher, A or B? It is in container A. So, which container has a greater capacity, A or B? It is in container A. This confirms our earlier finding that the capacity of container A is greater than that of container B. If container A has more capacity than container B, how else can we say this relationship? The capacity of container B is less than container A. The capacity of container A is greater than the capacity of container B. The capacity of container B is less than the capacity of container A. We can also say, container A holds more than container B. Container B holds less than container A. If two identical containers are not available, you can use just one, C, that is big enough to hold the contents of containers A and B first. Pour all the contents of container A into C and mark the level where the measuring material reaches, and label it as A. Next, empty container C and pour all the contents of container B into it. Mark the level where the measuring material reaches and label it as B. Compare the two marks on container C. The higher the mark, the greater the capacity. The method of using a third container to compare the capacity of two containers is called indirect comparison. Which container do you think has a greater capacity, G or H? We will use the cups to compare the capacities of the two containers. Fill each container to the brim with water. Then, pour the water from each container into the cups. The container that fills more cups has a greater capacity. Can you estimate how many cups can be filled with water from each container? Estimated number of cups. Container G. Container H. How many cups were filled with water from container G? 8 cups of water. How many cups were filled with water from container H? 6 cups of water. The capacity of container G is 8 cups of water. The capacity of container H is 6 cups of water. Which container then has greater capacity, G or H? Why? Container G has a greater capacity than container H. When we measured the capacity of each container, we used cups. In this case, a cup is a non-standard unit of measure. Can you name other non-standard units for capacity? Other non-standard units for capacity include spoon, scoop, glass, and mug. Measure the capacities of the containers using their assigned unit. Based on the results in the table, which container has a greater capacity, X or Y? Container Y has a greater capacity than container X. In any kind of non-standard unit used, the number of units needed to fill container Y is larger than that needed for container X. This means that container Y can hold more. Why are the numbers reported for each non-standard unit different? This is because the capacities of each non-standard unit vary. For example, a scoop holds less than a mug, so you need more scoops to fill a container compared to the number of mugs needed. Which among the non-standard units has the greatest capacity? The least? Why? The glass has the greatest capacity because it takes the fewest number to fill the containers. The scoop has the least capacity because it takes the most number to fill the containers. One way to compare the capacities of two containers indirectly is as follows. 1. Fill both containers to the rim with a measuring material. 2. Pour the contents of each container into two identical containers. 3. Compare the levels of the measuring material. The higher the level, the greater the capacity. One way to compare the capacities of two containers using a non-standard unit is as follows. 1. Fill both containers to the rim with a measuring material. 2. Choose a non-standard unit of measure, say cup. 3. Pour the contents of each container into cups. The container that fills more cups has a greater capacity.